5 years together, he refused to marry her. 3 years later, she said it was just a fling. The day they broke up, he was laughing with everyone in the VIP room, his tone flippant and dismissive. Just a fling, Sophia. Don't take it seriously. She stood outside the VIP room, red roses scattered on the floor around her. 3 years later, at a celebration party, she sat in the main seat. Someone casually mentioned him, and she chuckled. Robert? Just a fling. Outside the door, the man's eyes turned red, but he never came in. He was the eldest son of a top elite family. His hobby was to toy with women. To please him, she was forced to play the part of a reckless woman. All their friends laughed at her. After 6 years with him, her suffering was public knowledge. Nobody wanted a woman who had been intimate with him. She had once threatened to jump to give him an ultimatum, but he left callously. After that, he never contacted her again. But yesterday, he suddenly said he wanted to get married. A cold night, the top floor covered in heavy snow. Sophia stood with one foot suspended over the edge, shouting at her fiancé, Robert, if you don't marry me now, I'll jump from here. Jump. Who cares? The man left without a second thought. Sophia tried to follow but tripped, falling backward. Sophia woke up drenched in a cold sweat, rubbing her burning forehead as she gasped for breath, leaning against the nightstand. She had dreamed again of the ultimatum she gave Robert a year ago. Since he left, the man had vanished without a trace. As she was thinking, her phone chimed. Wearily, she picked up the phone from the nightstand, swiped the screen, and the next second a message popped up. Robert says he wants to get married. He was finally willing to marry her? By the time Sophia reacted, she had already dragged her sick body to the club, gasping for breath as she half-pushed open the VIP room door. A familiar voice came from inside. This is Emily, your sister-in-law. Only then did she see Robert, whom she hadn't seen in a year, holding a pure-looking girl with long hair in his arms. Someone asked, puzzled, Wait, this is sister-in-law. Then what's Sophia? At the sound of the question, the VIP room fell silent. A few seconds later, Robert sneered slowly. Don't talk nonsense. Sophia is the wife my mom and dad arranged for my brother. What does she have to do with me? Everyone fell silent. What Robert said was technically true, but after the eldest son of the Roberts estate died in a plane crash 6 years ago, the engagement fell to him. Moreover, since he was 18, Sophia had always been by his side. Robert was known as an untamable wild horse, and photos of their intimacy over the years had been frequently taken. When he suddenly announced he wanted to get married, everyone naturally assumed Sophia had finally gotten her wish. But the playboy was settling down only to marry someone else? Rob, we already told Sophia in the group chat that you're back. She should be here soon. How are we going to handle this? Hearing this, Sophia came back to her senses, suppressing her emotions as she pushed the door open and walked in. Sorry, I'm late. Everyone looked at her. Her face was cool and clear, her striking amber eyes seemed wet, clean and untouched by the mundane world, beautiful without being overtly seductive. Emily subconsciously tightened her grip on Robert's hand. Robert comforted her by putting an arm around her, then turned to Sophia and gestured, You came at the right time. Tell them yourself, have I ever told them to call you sister-in-law? He hadn't. Even though everyone knew they had an engagement, he said he didn't like her, and that made everything meaningless. Sophia swallowed the bitterness in her mouth, walked to the table good-naturedly and poured a drink. It's my fault. I didn't correct everyone in time. Should I drink to apologize? Robert's face inexplicably darkened. He pulled Emily up and left. Watching them leave, Sophia didn't stop them, nor did she become hysterical. This was her nature. She always paid attention to boundaries and never made things awkward for people in her interactions. The rich second generation felt quite sympathetic looking at her. Sophia pretended not to see, put down her drink, and excused herself. She returned to the apartment where she had lived with Robert for 5 years. Only then did she show her exhaustion. She waited for a long time before entering the password and opening the door. But as she stepped inside, she froze. In the darkness, Robert sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, playing with a lighter in his hand. The flickering crimson flame, his defiant eyes, pierced Sophia's heart in an instant. She walked towards the man against her will. When she reached him, their eyes met. The man suddenly stopped his movements, his sarcastic gaze sharply sweeping over her. "We broke up a year ago. I heard you're still pretending to be the obedient future daughter-in-law at my place. Haven't told my mom and dad yet." Sophia's heart stung. They had been good once. He disappeared after refusing to marry her. She thought they were just having a cold war, thought Robert was just throwing a tantrum like before. She never thought Robert genuinely didn't want her anymore. Before she could fully react, the man suddenly stood up and leaned in, his warm breath near her ear. But his words were, "You want to snag an elite family to save the Sioux group. Why not pick one from those rich brats? Quite a few of them tonight seem to like you." It was as if he couldn't wait to distance himself from her. She couldn't maintain her composure anymore. "What exactly do you want?" Over the years, she had gone along with his wildness, and her reputation was ruined long ago. People in their circle liked her personality and enjoyed dealing with her, but aside from the Roberts estate, no other elders would agree to her marrying into their family. Robert let out another scoff. "To put it bluntly, I don't want my real wife to be wronged." Saying this, he handed her his phone. On the screen was a social media post. In the photo, he and Emily were intimately close. Caption, "We're getting married." Sophia's heart was sharply pierced again. Then she heard Robert's cold words, "Like it and say congratulations." Chapter 2. It felt as if her heart was pierced again, deeply. Sophia dug her nails into her palms to maintain her composure. "There are better ways to handle this. Do you really have to be so ruthless? Why aren't you smiling anymore? I thought that fake smile on your face would never crack." The man said it as if it were a joke, his casualness making Sophia's throat feel bitter. "I'm talking about something serious, can you please?" Before she finished, Robert suddenly raised his hand and squeezed her jaw, his eyes turning cold. "Do you know what I hate most about you? It's this standard daughter-in-law's sense of propriety that you've been cultivated into, constantly lecturing and advising." The man finished his sarcasm and left. Sophia collapsed to the floor, drained of strength. She had never known that her advice was so annoying to him. But why didn't he say so before? Didn't he listen to her advice? Was it her fault, or had he changed? Before she could catch her breath, the phone rang again, the sound like a death knell. As soon as she answered, Eleanor's harsh voice came through. "What's going on with Robert's social media post? You let him post something like that. Can't you pay more attention? You indulged him for 5 years, letting him be wild and reckless, and now he's marrying someone else? Isn't that embarrassing?" The sharp words stabbed her heart and lungs. With a fever of 39 degrees Celsius again, Sophia truly had no energy left to deal with it. "Mom, let's talk tomorrow." Hanging up the phone, Sophia curled up on the sofa and fell into a coma. In a daze, she was back to the day her father and former fiancé, David, were in the plane crash. Her mother gripped her tightly, her fingernails digging into her flesh. "Your dad is gone. Sophia, the Sioux family can only rely on you from now on." The scene shifted, and the person holding her became Robert. "Since you agreed to be engaged to me, you'll be mine for life." Memories repeated, a night of nightmares. Sophia struggled awake, the sky already bright. After taking medicine for the fever, she forced herself up despite the aches, heading to the coffee shop to meet her mother. A short while later, at the coffee shop. As soon as she pushed the door open, Sophia saw 2 familiar figures not far away. At this moment, Robert was holding Emily with tenderness in his eyes, teasing her with a smile. "My good Emily, you're still so shy even though we're getting married. Say husband for me." Sophia's throat tightened. In a trance, she thought of that year. Robert had once pulled her into the marriage registration office and said, "Let's observe the process beforehand. It's going to happen sooner or later anyway." At that time, 18-year-old Robert's eyes were sparkling with a puppy-like grievance. "Every time I ask you to call me husband, you change the subject. Are you still thinking about my brother?" From that moment on, Robert was like a wild beast. He never said "I love you" to her, but constantly demanded love from her, brazenly barging into her life. As time passed, she was forcefully opened up. But just as she became invested, Robert pulled out cleanly, leaving her to struggle alone in the mud. Until now. Across from her, Robert leaned in and whispered something to Emily. Emily's face turned bright red with shyness, and she stood on tiptoe to kiss him. This scene stung Sophia's eyes painfully. She turned to leave, holding her bag. Unexpectedly, just as she turned, she saw Eleanor enter in a rage, rushing over and slapping Emily without a word. Robert quickly blocked her, carefully protecting Emily in his arms, his face icy. Sophia's brow twitched, and she rushed over. Eleanor was furious, her chest rising and falling violently. "Robert, are you still protecting this vixen? How can you face our Sophia?" Hearing this, Robert turned his head and glanced at Sophia mockingly. "How have I wronged her? Sophia has been with you since you were 18. My daughter gave everything to you, and you ruined her reputation. Besides you, who else would want her?" The words were like sharp knives, making Sophia's vision go black. Even her own mother said that. She remembered fooling around with Robert in front of the floor-to-ceiling window without closing the curtains, getting photographed, and his friends discussing behind her back how open she was. Things she hadn't paid attention to before suddenly became a thorn in her side. She lowered her head, pulled her mother, her voice hoarse. "Mom, let's go. Sophia, please, let's go." The strange looks from people around felt like she was being stripped naked. Suppressing the suffocating feeling in her chest, she hurried away, feeling exhausted as she got back in the car. Suddenly, her phone chimed. She lowered her head to look, her eyes freezing. On the screen was a warning text message from Robert. "You think running away solves everything? You better make your mom apologize to my wife. Otherwise, what you care about most, you will lose." Chapter 3. The words "my wife" on the screen stabbed into Sophia's heart, hurting her to the point of suffocation. Before she could dim the phone, Eleanor, who had gotten into the car after her, suddenly grabbed her arm. Bang! The phone fell to the floor. Eleanor's interrogation started at the same time. "What's going on between you and Robert?" Meeting the stern gaze, Sophia's heart felt blocked. She held back and held back, finally telling the truth. "Actually, I haven't been able to reach Robert this past year. Ever since that ultimatum, we broke up." "Broke up? Who gave you permission to break up?" Eleanor's voice suddenly rose. "When you got pregnant and gave him an ultimatum a year ago, the whole circle was already laughing at you. If you still don't marry into the Roberts estate in the end, where will the Sue family's face be?" Sophia lowered her eyes and held onto the leather seat. "Mom, you saw it. Robert doesn't like me." "That's because you haven't tried hard enough. If you hadn't fallen down the stairs a year ago and had saved that child, you would be Mrs. Robert now." Eleanor became more and more agitated. "You must marry into the Roberts estate. You can't just stand by and watch your dad's life's work be ruined." The words on Sophia's lips were swallowed back. Was the company really that important? Robert had already found a girlfriend. How shameless would she have to be to keep clinging to him? But Eleanor didn't care at all. She directly ordered the car to drive to Hillcrest Manor and pushed Sophia out. "If you can't win Robert back, don't come home." Boom. The roar of the engine was grating, and the car sped away. Sophia clutched her phone, standing alone and freezing in the white snow. She waited until nightfall. The snow fell heavily, whitening her long hair, but Robert still hadn't returned. She had no choice but to call him. After 2 calls, he finally answered, his voice lazy. "Something wrong." Sophia's heart tightened, her breathing a little ragged. "I'm at Hillcrest Manor. Can we talk?" There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Robert's voice was indifferent. "All right, wait there." He didn't say how long to wait or where to wait. The call ended. She stood under the streetlight, watching the fluttering snowflakes, and suddenly remembered it was her birthday today. On the night of her 23rd birthday, it had snowed this heavily too, and Robert had also told her to wait. Later, she was taken to the backyard. In the dead of winter, Robert personally planted a large patch of roses for her as a gift. "Sophia, from now on, I'll take care of you in place of Mr. Sue." The warmer the memories, the colder the reality. 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. By the time the clock struck midnight, this time, Robert still hadn't appeared. The time ticked to 0:01. Her birthday was over. Just then, her phone chimed again. A friend request popped up on WeChat, the note saying Emily. Perhaps her brain was frozen, too. As if possessed, Sophia clicked accept. The next second, countless photos were sent over. With Robert at the movies, eating Western food, riding the Ferris wheel. She was laughing, he was smiling. Then another message came. Sophia, Robert asked me to tell you, this is just a small lesson. At that moment, Sophia's blood ran cold. It turned out, Robert had told her to wait this time just to get back at her for his new girlfriend. Sophia didn't remember how she got back to the apartment. After being in the cold wind for most of the night, her fever worsened. She collapsed on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, it was already the afternoon of the next day. She forced herself up to take medicine. Martha's call came right after. The other party sighed several times. Sophia, are you busy right now? Robert did something foolish this morning and brought a woman named Emily home, insisting on marrying her. His dad is furious and wants him to face severe family consequences. Can you come and stop him? Sophia's hand holding the phone tightened. Meeting the family so quickly? It seemed he really loved Emily. Martha herself had called. If she didn't go, her mother wouldn't leave her in peace. Suppressing her discomfort, she drove to the Roberts estate. Unexpectedly, after arriving at the estate, as she climbed the steps and before she even pushed the door open, she heard Robert's extremely contemptuous voice from inside. In your eyes, Sophia is in every way, and my brother was too. They were a perfect match. If you want Sophia to be your daughter-in-law so badly, why don't you let her marry my brother's ghost? Chapter 4. Sophia froze. Robert's second voice quickly followed. Your pressure won't work on me. I will only marry the person I love. These two sentences completely shattered Sophia's armor, leaving her mind blank. She only felt cold. The room was in chaos, but she couldn't hear anything. After a long time, suppressing the suffocating discomfort, she recovered and walked inside. The commotion had subsided. As soon as Martha saw her, she hurried over and grabbed her hand. Your mom told me all the grievances you've suffered over the phone. Don't worry, you've always been first in everything you do since you were little. I only recognize you as our Roberts estate daughter-in-law. Sophia froze again. What was the use of being first, of being excellent? Given Robert's stubborn temperament, if he didn't want her, he would never marry her. Before she could speak, Martha handed her some medicine. You know Robert has a temper. He only used to listen to your advice. Can you go apply the medicine for him and try to persuade him? Sophia held the medicine, her throat choked, unable to speak. Robert used to listen to her only because she stayed by his side and indulged him, which led to his compromise. Now that he was fighting wholeheartedly for Emily, he probably hated her the most. How could he possibly listen to her? Thinking with self-mockery, she still went upstairs. As soon as she reached the bedroom door, the man grabbed a pillow and threw it at her. Get out. The cotton swabs in her palm felt a little hard. Sophia endured it, then closed the door and walked in. Walking to the bed, looking at the bloody wounds on the man's back, she suddenly couldn't help but ask, do you love Emily that much? Don't these injuries hurt? You'd sacrifice your life for love. Hearing this, Robert suddenly looked up and glared at her, his eyes full of cold mockery. If you really cared about me, stop reporting me behind my back and do something practical. Their eyes met, the man's gaze indifferent and stubborn. She had seen this stubbornness before, when she thought he loved her. Her eyes trembled slightly. Sophia couldn't bear to look away. Thinking that his current sincerity was for another woman, her heart felt as if it were being torn apart. Let me apply the medicine first. This time, the man did not refuse. The room was very quiet. Sophia slowly composed herself. After applying the medicine, she suppressed the emotions in her eyes and tried to act as calm as possible. What do you want me to do? She knew Robert too well. If he wanted something, he would get it. Moreover, she had gotten used to compromising over the years. Robert let out an ambiguous cold laugh, ignoring the pain in his back as he sat up. His pair of cool, thin eyes, like a hunting hawk, locked onto Sophia's eyes. You should know I'm protective. Your mom offended Emily. I can't let it go. However, if you can help get my mom to accept Emily, we can forget about the apology. Emily isn't as worldly as you. She's innocent and timid. She's not good at pleasing people. Having a model daughter-in-law like you around is really off-putting. So, Sophia couldn't help but interrupt. Was she wrong for being good? She met his playful, dark eyes and heard him say coolly, word by word, "If you have a boyfriend, my mom won't refuse to accept Emily anymore." Sophia's face turned pale. He wanted her to break the engagement. But if she was the one who broke it, she would face the wrath of the Roberts estate, and the Sue group would undoubtedly be in a more difficult situation. Robert didn't leave her any way out. Standing up abruptly, she walked out without a word. But just as she reached the door, the man's cold threat came from behind her. "Sophia, do you want to see the news of the Sue group's bankruptcy tomorrow?" Sophia clenched her fingers tightly, enduring it again and again, tears already welling up in her eyes. But she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she conceded with utter weariness, "Then I'll trouble you to find me a man." With that, she fled the room and the Roberts estate as if escaping. In the car, the confined space was even more oppressive. Sophia couldn't hold back the discomfort anymore and suddenly vomited blood with a gasp. The shocking red bloodstain dyed Sophia's eyes red as well. She leaned against the steering wheel in pain, wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, but a fine, dense pain spread from her limbs and body, growing more intense as time passed. She couldn't bear it anymore and drove to the hospital. After being examined and given a sedative and painkiller, Sophia leaned back in the chair and closed her eyes to rest. Half awake, half dreaming, she felt as if she was suddenly pushed off a cliff. "Sophia!" She abruptly opened her eyes and saw the doctor standing in front of her, handing her the report with a look of compassion. It clearly stated, "Late-stage cancer." Chapter 5. Sophia sat in the hospital corridor for a long time until twilight fell. The doctor's words kept replaying in her mind. "The cancer cells in your body have spread and are progressing quickly. You need to be prepared. It's possible you won't live for more than a month." She put the report into her bag and returned to the Sue family home, feeling lost. Her mother wasn't back. She walked straight to her bedroom and locked herself in. On the nightstand in the room was a large group photo taken when she went on vacation with her mom and dad and the Roberts family. Gazing at her father's kind smile, she hugged the photo frame and fell into the quilt, tears slowly streaming down her face. "Dad, I'm so tired." After her father's accident, she promised her mother she would support the Sue group. To maintain the engagement with the Roberts estate, she compromised again and again, letting Robert into her heart. "I've tried my best. Why is everyone blaming me in the end?" Even heaven blamed her, not allowing her to live. As her consciousness faded, she seemed to return to that summer vacation. Both families intended for her to date David, but Robert always tagged along. David couldn't help but complain. "Robert, you're a high schooler now. Can't you be more considerate? The resort is huge. Stop following us all the time." Robert stood with his hands in his pockets, looking disdainful. "Which eye of yours saw me following you? I'm clearly following Sophia." "Sophia hasn't said anything. Why do you care? With your rotten personality, any girl who falls for you will probably lose their life because of you. Let them like me. They deserve it." Sophia woke up with a start, covered in a cold sweat. Coming back to her senses, she reached out and touched her lower abdomen. Perhaps she really did deserve it, which was why she couldn't keep her child and couldn't keep her own life. She stared blankly at the ceiling. Just then, her phone chimed. She picked it up and saw a text message from Robert. "The man you asked for, come meet him." A simple, clear sentence, plus a location and a time. Sophia stared at it, her eyes dry and swollen again. If he loved her even a little, he wouldn't be in such a hurry to find her a man. Sophia gave a self-mocking smile, got up and looked at her pale face in the mirror, but couldn't find the energy to dress up. She grabbed her bag and left. Perhaps because of her illness or Robert's indifference, her eyelids twitched constantly on the drive there. Just as she was about to reach her destination, the car radio suddenly broadcast a news report. Latest news, the Viridian Embassy has announced they have found survivors from the Flight 376 plane crash 5 years ago. It is said that the CEOs of Lakewood's Sue and Robert families were among them. Hearing this, Sophia froze. Dad and David weren't dead? Before her mind could process it, her hands had already turned the steering wheel, driving rapidly towards the airport. Meanwhile, at Aqua Bistro, a restaurant frequented by the wealthy, in a VIP room, Robert and Chris, one of his friends, were sitting opposite each other and had been waiting for half an hour. The man had been sullen since he arrived, as if someone owed him $500,000. Chris had also lost patience. He checked his phone for the third time and couldn't help but ask, "It's been half an hour." Sophia is known for being punctual. "Do you think she's not coming?" Robert snorted and slightly raised his chin. The cold expression on his face eased slightly. Glancing at Chris indifferently, he said with certainty, "I sent her the message. She'll definitely come." In these 6 years, when had Sophia ever refused him? The next second, Chris grabbed his phone and suddenly shot up, handing the phone to him in a panic. "Rob, Sophia can't come. The news just broke. Your brother is alive." Someone saw Sophia board a plane heading for the Viridian Embassy. At that, the atmosphere in the room instantly turned icy. Robert's face darkened like ink. Chris was so scared he didn't dare to breathe. The next second, Robert suddenly stood up, kicked the table, and roared, "Book me a ticket to the Viridian Embassy immediately." Chapter 6. After a loud bang, Robert left like the wind. Chris closed his mouth in astonishment, watching Robert's enraged back. His mind flashed back to something that happened years ago. At that time, Robert and Sophia had just started seeing each other. Robert excitedly dragged Sophia to a specific scenic spot where they made a promise. Even in a thunderstorm, he climbed 20 meters up a tree to tie a ribbon/lock. However, a day later, he went alone and quietly burned that ribbon/lock. The day before he burned it, someone had talked about him and Sophia, saying that she was with him only because he looked like his brother, and Sophia was using him as a substitute. His gaze fell back on his phone screen. Chris couldn't help but sigh. With Robert's temper, something bad was bound to happen sooner or later. 24 hours later, at the Viridian Embassy, Sophia looked at the shocking blood in the sink. Wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes, she took out medicine from her bag and swallowed it with the blood in her mouth. She had seen all the survivors, but neither her dad nor David was among them. It was a false hope, and her condition had worsened. She turned on the tap and washed the bloodstains away, then walked out of the embassy, exhausted. As she walked down the steps, she glimpsed a familiar figure by the car. Sophia looked closely. Under the streetlight, the man's figure was tall and broad, his defiant eyes stabbing at her with fierce intensity. "Robert?" Sophia frowned. Why was he here when he should be with his little girlfriend? She rubbed her brow wearily and walked up to him. Robert watched her approach, gazing at her red, swollen, and disappointed eyes. He pulled out a mocking smile. "What? Disappointed it's me?" The man's anger was clear and direct, but Sophia didn't know what she had done to displease him this time. In the past, she would have humbled herself and tried to appease him, but today she was too tired, too lazy to coax him. Suppressing her fatigue, she simply asked, "Why are you here?" With that, Robert suddenly took a step forward, forcefully dragged her into the car, and his cold body immediately pressed down on her. "I heard my brother is alive. You, his former fiancé, came to see him. Can I, his brother, come too?" What kind of madness was he in? Had she said he couldn't come? Smelling the heavy scent of alcohol on the man, she knew there was no reasoning with a drunk person. She softened her tone and persuaded, "Let go first. I'm tired and want to go back to the hotel to rest." "You're tired seeing me?" The man sneered. "You wait for me." He closed the car door and sped towards the hotel. The car sped up all the way. Sophia rubbed her brow, trying hard to endure the discomfort. Before she could feel any better, after arriving at the hotel, Robert grabbed her again and carried her all the way to the room. Bang! She was thrown onto the bed. Before she could speak, the man's dominant and brutal kiss rained down on her. Sophia trembled with shock, her lips aching from being bitten. "Wife." A hoarse sound suddenly exploded in Sophia's ear, draining the color from her face. Her body stiffened. She pushed the man away with difficulty, her voice trembling. "Robert? Do you know who I am?" The arm around her paused for a moment. The next second, a light sneer echoed in her ear. "Of course I know. You're Sophia, the model daughter-in-law my mom is most satisfied with. But can you tell if the Robert you're saying refers to me or my brother? If my brother knew that you were pressed beneath me, an 18-year-old, less than a year after his death, do you think he would still want you?" Chapter 7. Robert's voice was ice-cold, brutally trampling on Sophia's 6 years of devotion, leaving her in too much pain to speak. Her silence made Robert's eyes grow darker and darker, a storm brewing. Sophia didn't notice, suppressing the pain in her eyes. She fiercely pushed him away. "Since you already have Emily, we shouldn't be doing this anymore." But as soon as she got up, Robert grabbed her ankle, dragged her beneath him, and then kissed her with biting ferocity. She pounded and struggled in desperation. The more she resisted, the more brutal the man's actions became. In the 6 years they were together, Robert had never been this wild. This act felt like wild beasts tearing at each other, fighting. Sophia woke up from this nightmare the next morning. The man's presence was long gone from the room. Sophia returned to Lakewood, weary, trying to forget that wild night, and began arranging her affairs. Even though she had worked hard for 6 years, she had to admit that the Sioux group, she couldn't save it. She could only do her best to leave her mother some security. These past few days, she had also deliberately avoided Robert. Unexpectedly, after she finished talking about selling shares tonight, she still ran into an acquaintance on her way out. Chris grabbed her like he had found a lifeline. "Sophia, please help. Rob came back a few days ago, and Emily saw the hickeys on his neck and broke up with him. Rob has been drinking here for days. If he keeps drinking like this, he'll be ruined. None of us can persuade him. Rob only used to listen to you. Can you take him back?" Sophia awkwardly stepped back. "I'm sorry, I can't help with this." She shouldn't have any more ties with Robert. Just as she finished speaking, the door of the VIP room to the left suddenly, bang, opened. Robert stumbled out, his eyes locked onto her. Sophia smelled the alcohol and frowned, about to leave, but the man suddenly lunged forward and hugged her. "Wife, you're here." Seeing this, Chris immediately distanced himself from the two, giving Sophia no chance to refuse. Sophia, I'll leave Rob to you. I have things to do. Thank you for your trouble." With that, he fled as if escaping. Sophia had no choice but to take the man, who wouldn't let go of her, back to the apartment. After putting the man down on the sofa, she was about to leave when Robert suddenly got up and clung to her, pinning her down on the sofa. "Wife, you don't love me at all. You only know how to use me and hurt me, but I still love you." Sophia's heart stung. He hadn't said, "I love you" to her since he left. This love wasn't meant for her. Sophia looked down, meeting Robert's hopeful eyes, as if she were his only one. But at this moment, the more genuine his affection seemed, the more her heart ached. His wife wasn't her. Her throat tightened. She turned her head and pushed him away. "You're mistaken. I'm not your wife." With that, Robert leaned in even closer, stubbornly insistent like a mule. "You are." The smell of alcohol made Sophia's eyes red. She pushed him away and got up, turning to look for her phone. "You really have the wrong person. I'll contact Emily for you." But the man lunged forward and pinned her beneath him. "You are my wife. I won't be mistaken." He familiarly tore away her clothes. He knew her body, and in just a few moves, he was in his element, making love to her wildly. Drunk people were unreasonable. The chandelier on the ceiling swayed back and forth, turning all night. The next morning, Sophia woke up in pain, her waist and legs aching when she got out of bed. The next second, she heard Robert talking on the phone gently. "Good wife Emily, please don't be angry. I truly know I was wrong. I'll rent out a whole theater for you for the new movie as an apology." Without the stimulation of alcohol, he wouldn't mistake his wife again. Sophia's heart turned cold. Robert hung up the phone, turned around, saw she was awake, and said expressionlessly, The project in the east of the city is for the Sue group. Consider it compensation for being drunk and confused last night. Her heart was stabbed, aching. Sophia tightly clutched the bed sheet beneath her, but she always knew her place. Mr. Robert is generous. Thank you. But her compromise only made Robert's expression even worse. He slammed the door and left. Sophia couldn't hold back anymore and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The pain spread from her heart. She clutched her chest, struggling to breathe, unable to tell if the cancer hurt more or Robert's words did. That evening, Sophia specifically took painkillers before returning to the Sue family home. As she entered, she saw her mother holding a project contract, walking towards her with a smiling face. This is a collaboration Robert offered himself. I told you, as long as you use the right methods, you can definitely make him settle down. Listen to me, Mom. Use this opportunity to coax Robert into marrying you. Only by truly marrying into the Roberts estate will they fully help our Sue group recover. People's joys and sorrows were not shared. Sophia was suffocating with repression. She was dying. How could she protect the Sue family? Suppressing her exhaustion, she for the first time poured cold water on her mother when she was happiest. Mom, a collaborative project doesn't mean anything. Robert likes Emily. I can never marry him again in this life. Before she finished speaking, Eleanor suddenly slapped her hard. Slap. Unfilial daughter. You insist on talking back to me, on going against me, don't you? Listen to me. If you can't marry Robert, then go die. In an instant, blood rushed up her throat, and Sophia could no longer suppress it. She turned away in embarrassment and hurried out. As she pushed the door open, she met Robert's eyes at the steps below. Chapter 8. Perhaps her heart was completely cold, devoid of any expectation. The moment she saw Robert, Sophia inexplicably rushed over and hugged his waist. Sensing the man's body stiffen, she thought he would push her away and hugged him tighter. Please don't move. Just take pity on me and let me lean on you for a while. Robert froze. In all these years, this was the first time she had shown him such vulnerability. This feeling. By the time he came back to his senses and looked down, he found that in that short moment, Sophia had fallen asleep in his arms. Robert was silent for a moment, then lifted her into the car and took her to a hotel. Putting her on the bed and covering her with the blanket, he gazed at the woman's uneasy face even in sleep and realized how thin she was. He raised his hand and brought it close to her face. Just then, the person in his dream murmured, "Robert, don't leave me." Robert's face turned instantly cold. He withdrew his hand and got up to leave. Shortly after, a bang, sound of the door closing echoed. Sophia flinched, hugging the blanket, but did not wake up. The next morning, Sophia was woken up by the pain. Having not taken painkillers all night, her body felt like it was being pricked by thousands of needles. She got up trembling and opened the door in a sorry state. As soon as the door opened, the door of the room opposite also happened to open. Robert carefully put his arm around Emily and walked out. Their eyes met in midair. Robert immediately turned away in disgust, but lowered his head to comfort the woman in his arms. "Sorry, I hurt you last night. I'll take you to the hospital to get checked out." In an instant, Sophia staggered, feeling as if she had fallen into a thicket of thorns. Last night, Robert and Emily spent the night together in the room opposite hers. While Sophia was, Emily smiled shyly again. "Sophia is still here. Don't make a scene. I'm fine. Let's go." She pulled Robert's hand and left. In the brief eye contact, Sophia clearly saw the provocation and triumph in Emily's eyes. Sophia clenched her fingers, her gaze following them as they left, watching the man's thoughtful care until the elevator door closed. Suddenly, she coughed up blood again with a wah sound. The pain came fiercely. Her vision went black, and she almost collapsed to the floor. She held onto the wall and rested for a long time. The pain didn't decrease, but intensified. Sophia couldn't bear it anymore and went to the hospital. She didn't ask for treatment, only saying, "I know I don't have many days left. Just give me some painkillers that work well." After taking painkillers, Sophia regained some strength and called her lawyer. "Mr. Lee, please send over the share transfer agreement you drafted earlier." Also, I want to make a will. While she was conscious, she needed to completely settle her affairs. In the afternoon, she made a special trip to the cemetery to pay respects to her deceased father and David. This might be the last time she would see them alive. Before coming, she specifically put on makeup and wore a beautiful dress, trying to make herself look less weak. Unexpectedly, she ran into Robert again. She was a little surprised. After all, in all these years, unless the Roberts estate forced him, Robert never came here. What was different today? When Robert saw her come, his face was somewhat somber. He scanned her with dark eyes, his tone sarcastic. Dressed up quite formally, aren't you? It's been 6 years. You're still thinking about a dead person. If you had a new boyfriend, he definitely wouldn't be able to stand you. Sophia didn't understand why he always spoke with barbs. She gave a self-deprecating laugh. Could it be that you didn't marry me because of your brother? Robert immediately denied it. Of course not. Right, you just purely found me annoying. Otherwise, after 6 years with him, and even carrying his child, even a dog would develop some affection. But Robert didn't respond, as if he was silently agreeing with her answer. Having seen him, Sophia didn't stay long. She quickly left the cemetery and drove. Unconsciously, she found herself at the apartment where she had lived with Robert for 5 years. Even if he didn't love her, she still instinctively came here. She had to admit, letting go of someone was too difficult. She dragged her tired body to the master bedroom and collapsed onto the bed, falling asleep. Half awake, half dreaming, her phone vibrating continuously woke her up. Sophia opened her eyes groggily. As soon as she turned on her phone, a Weibo official announcement popped up. #shocking. Real-life Prince and Cinderella. Robert, heir to the Robert Group, announces engagement to college student Emily. Chapter 9. This trending online topic suddenly exploded late at night. Below the trending topic, Sophia's name followed closely, and netizens discussed heatedly. Didn't they say Sophia was Lakewood's most future daughter-in-law? She was the Roberts estate's intended bride. How could she lose to an unknown college student? Robert was beaten half to death by his family elders to marry Emily. He must truly love Emily. Sophia, who threw herself at him and was ruined, naturally couldn't compete. It's normal. Many women fall head over heels for playboys, but when playboys get older, they settle down with younger girls, without exception. Sophia couldn't bear to read anymore. The phone fell from her hand. She trembled as she took out painkillers and swallowed 5 or 6 more, the bitterness making her face contort. But it still hurt. It hurt terribly. Is this painkiller fake? Why isn't it stopping the pain? That night, she endured it, staying awake until dawn. The bed sheet beneath her was soaked. The pain in her body finally subsided a little. She managed to support herself and began to sort through all the things the Roberts estate had given her before. An hour later, she took the box she had packed to Hillcrest Manor. Seeing Robert again, perhaps because he was happy, he was full of vitality, something she hadn't seen in the years they were together. Getting to marry the person he loved, he was clearly happy. He really did love Emily. Thinking this, Sophia placed the box she was holding on the steps. These are things for the Roberts estate's daughter-in-law. I'm not, so I'm returning them to you. Also, congratulations on your upcoming marriage. I won't be coming to your wedding. At her words, Robert's face instantly darkened. She didn't know why he suddenly got angry. He kicked the box away and said mockingly, "Take this trash away. I'll naturally give my wife the best. Things someone else has worn don't suit her. I find them distasteful." Sophia's heart was hit by his words, almost unable to suppress the blood rising in her throat. Was he disgusted with the things or with her? As she was lost in thought, Emily walked out from behind the door wearing a pure white wedding dress. Seeing Sophia, a flash of vigilance crossed her face. She then walked to Robert's side and linked her arm through his, as if asserting her claim. "Sophia, you're here at the right time. Can you tell me if I look good in this wedding dress? Rob designed this himself. It's one of a kind in the world." Sophia clenched her hands tightly. Of course, she knew. That wedding dress, Robert had designed it for her when he was 20, and she had watched him do it. But now, Her eyes were stinging with soreness. Sophia's tears suddenly welled up. She thought it was time for her to say goodbye and exit. After a relationship, she had to maintain her dignity. She forced a smile, desperately suppressing the tears in her eyes. Congratulations. I wish you a happy marriage and many children. With that, she endured the pain and hurried away as if escaping. Stumbling back to the apartment, as soon as she opened the door, the pain she had suppressed all the way could no longer be held back. She collapsed to the floor and suddenly vomited a large pool of blood. Pain surged from all over her body. Blood kept pouring out, choking her throat. She could feel life draining away. She was going to die. It hurts. It hurts so much. She trembled as she wiped the blood, but the blood kept coming more and more. If someone could just be with her, would it not hurt so much? Enduring the pain, she slowly crawled forward, rummaged through the scattered things on the floor for her phone, and tremblingly dialed her mother's number. It rang 3 times, but the call was cruelly hung up. She didn't give up and continued to dial, but this time, the phone showed it was off. Despair surged in her heart. It wasn't the first time her mother had used this kind of silent treatment on her. Every time she had an unpleasant encounter with Robert, her mother would do this. But now she was dying. She was really suffering in so much pain. Why wouldn't she answer her call? The pain intensified, like fine needles piercing her heart and nerves. Gradually, she no longer had the strength to hold the phone, her consciousness slowly fading. She stared blankly at the open door, her heart filled with infinite sadness. Her whole life, she had been arranged since childhood, trying to please this person and that person. In the end, no one cared about her. Not even at the moment of her death was there anyone with her. Her eyes slowly closed. No one appeared at the door. Her hand slowly fell into the pool of blood. The cold wind blew in from outside. Her last words echoed in the empty room. If there's a next life, I hope there will be someone who loves me always. Chapter 10. The heavy snow fell all night, as if paving a pure white path for someone. As soon as dawn broke, the entire city of Lakewood became lively. Everyone knew that Robert, heir to the Robert Group, and college student Emily would be holding their engagement ceremony in the most magnificent church. Their wedding photos were displayed on the electronic screens of skyscrapers, visible everywhere in the streets and alleys, known throughout the city. In the side hall of the church that morning, Robert sat on the sofa in his groom's suit, rubbing his brow restlessly. The next moment, he heard Chris exclaim, "What's with this trending online topic? Sophia actually sold the Sue Group." Robert's hand rubbing his brow paused. He heard the group of people behind him discussing. No way. Sophia spent these 6 years humbling herself in the circle, desperately trying to get into the Roberts estate, all for the sake of saving the Sue Group. Why did she suddenly change her mind? Change her mind, my foot. With Sophia's mom's crazy control, she wouldn't let Sophia sell the company, would she? Just wait, there must be a twist. True. Maybe she's deliberately creating a trending online topic for Rob to see. Otherwise, why would she sell it now and not earlier? Listening, Robert's inexplicable unease was replaced by dissatisfaction. Stepping into the hallway, he took out his phone and sent a message to Sophia. Who are you doing these little tricks for? If you're truly congratulating me, come to the wedding. But after he sent it, 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 minutes passed, and Sophia didn't reply at all. The message was like a stone sinking into the sea. Before, Sophia used to reply instantly. Robert put his phone away with a cold face, a sneer appearing in his eyes. I want to see what kind of tricks you're up to. Rob? A sweet call beside him brought his attention back. Robert turned and saw Emily standing there in a wedding dress. This dress, originally tailored for Sophia, looked quite awkward on her. If Sophia had worn this dress. Never mind, her heart was always only with that dead person. Robert put his phone back in his pocket with a cold face. Seeing the coldness in the man's eyes, Emily felt inexplicably panicked. She had also seen the trending online topic about the Sue family. Sophia had been with Robert for 6 whole years, and that woman clearly held an unusual place in his heart. This wedding absolutely couldn't go wrong today. Otherwise, she would never be able to marry into the Roberts estate. She pretended to be weak and walked up to Robert, taking his hand. "Rob, I'm a little nervous. Can you stay with me? It's just an engagement. What's there to be nervous about?" Robert looked down at Emily's pure face and suddenly felt bored. He pushed her away. Emily's eyes instantly turned red. "Rob?" Her eyes, similar to Sophia's striking amber eyes, welled up with tears. His heart softened inexplicably. "All right, don't overthink it. I'll stay with you." However, he didn't know why, but he felt inexplicably irritable. His eyes also frequently looked towards the entrance downstairs. Downstairs, people had already started betting on when Sophia would arrive. But they waited until the wedding began, until the music started, until Robert walked down the aisle step by step, leading Emily in her pure white wedding dress. Sophia still didn't come. The dream of marrying into an elite family was finally coming true, and Emily's face showed uncontainable joy. But Robert beside her had an icy face, not a trace of a smile. He frequently looked at the seats reserved for the Sue family, which were empty. His brows furrowed deeper and deeper, his heart filled with anxiety. Just as the officiant called for the wedding to begin, the church doors were pushed open. "Robert, you can't get married." Eleanor, usually dignified and proper, now looked like a crazy woman. As she rushed in, screaming hysterically towards Robert, accusing him sharply. "How can you marry someone else? My daughter spent her best youth playing with you, making you happy. She was pregnant and was pressured into marriage out of necessity, but you wouldn't marry her. How can you face her?" Robert froze. Pregnant? When Sophia gave him the ultimatum, wasn't it to use him to save the Sue group? His mind buzzed constantly, a strong sense of dread rising from the bottom of his heart. He watched Eleanor rush towards him, but forgot to move out of the way. If it weren't for your refusal to marry her, Sophia wouldn't have fallen down the stairs and miscarried, wouldn't have ruined her health, and wouldn't have gotten cancer at such a young age. My daughter was driven to her death by you. You heartless man. My daughter is dead. How can you still have the nerve to get married? You owe me my daughter. Eleanor roared in despair, throwing a pile of reports at Robert's face. Her sharp fingernails left bloody scratches on his face, but he only stared, his eyes red, at the reports scattered on the floor. 1. An ultrasound report. 1. A diagnosis report for late-stage cancer. 1. A death certificate.